Hello and welcome to this episode of the Toffee Blues Opposition View. As always, I'm Max, and finally, after what seemed like a never-ending international break, the Blues are finally back in action at Goodison Park this weekend, coming up against the newly promoted Cardiff City. I sat down and talked to Ben James from the View from the Ninian podcast, which is a Cardiff City fan website and podcast, just to talk about Cardiff City promotion from the Championship to the Premier League last season, the start to life in the Premier League this season so far, what he expects, which was quite surprising to me, what to expect from Cardiff from a tactical standpoint for the game this weekend, and just to round off, he gave his thoughts on Everton so far this season, which was really nice to hear. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview. So finally, after what seemed a never-ending international break, club football is finally back. On the weekend, Everton have got Cardiff City at home. I'm joined by Ben James of View from the Ninian, which is the Cardiff City podcast and website. Ben, just to start off, as it seems topical, as I've just mentioned, we're coming back from the international break, and Everton players seem to have got been caught up on camera, obviously on loan at Stoke. Ashley Williams on international duty with Wales. He got overheard calling Cardiff City fans mugs. To me, soft, playful, but just to get your interpretation of that, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. It kind of split. So the guys from the View from Ninian, it split us down the middle a little bit. I think some of the guys were kind of saw it as offensive and a kind of out of line, and I just saw it as what it was. I think it was a bit of banter between the players. I think he's a former Swansea player. He was their captain for however many years and kind of led them to the Premier League. So he's obviously got his allegiances, and I think there's a lot of Cardiff. There was a lot of Cardiff staff involved in the Wales setup, and I think it was the physio Sean Connolly who he said, "Look at these Cardiff fans looking like mugs or whatever." And there was another video a couple days later of Sean Connolly doing the swim away back to him, which is our thing for Swansea fans. So I think it's all playful banter. I just think he's a bit naive to say it in the tunnel when he knows cameras are going to be around, and I think it was a bit stupid of him to say it. But I'm not going to take any offence. He's been a really good leader for Wales on the pitch. He took us to Euro 2016 and led us to the semi-finals. So I can't, I'm not going to let one little silly comment undo all that, really.
Fair play. Signed to Everton off the back of that Euro 2016, and however, stupidity and naivety is something that us Evertonians would associate with Ashley Williams, given his last few performances with us.
How says he?
Just to move on to Cardiff then, just a quick run through of the standings. 18th place, played 12, won 2, drawn 2, lost 8, a goal difference of -14. Despite that, though, obviously last time out before the international break, you picked up that 2-1 win against Brighton.
Yeah.
The goals come from Callum Patterson, Sol Bamba. Are you confident that, obviously, there has been a lengthy break, but are you confident that form can continue?
I think so. I think as the season, we started the season with a loss against Bournemouth, but then we had a couple of decent performances where we drew against Huddersfield and Newcastle where we should have won, and then I think it was the Arsenal game that was kind of the game where we played really well. We pushed Arsenal to the limits, and I think they scored 2 really good goals to win the game 3-2. And I think we couldn't complain that we lost, but I think there was positivity there. And I think the Fulham game and the Brighton game, particularly the last couple of games where we've won and we picked up points, were really good performances. And I think we started the season perhaps a bit slowly, but as the season's got on, we look relatively solid. We're playing good football. A few of the players that weren't there at the start of the season, like Aaron Gunnarsson, have come in. Josh Murphy's kind of really settling into the Premier League really well, and I think we've just got a good side. And I think you look at the table. Yeah, we're in 18th, but I honestly don't think we expected to be 18th. I think we expected to be 20th at this stage. And I think the fact that we're 18th with a couple of wins under our belt against teams around us and near us, I think it's cause for positivity.
Fair shout. Obviously, that was something that we were discussing off camera. The expectations is something that I really want to kind of get an idea of from the Cardiff perspective, because if you look at the other promoted sides that have come up, Fulham and Wolves, the investment that have gone into their squad compared to Cardiff is huge. So you compare the expectations. So obviously I've heard some Wolves fans looking, they want to push maybe a mid-table finish and then look at building on that and going into Europe. But from a Cardiff perspective, obviously you got that second place finish last season in the championship. I didn't watch Cardiff a whole lot, I must admit. Last season I caught I think it was the cup game against Manchester City where I remember Pep Guardiola was a bit cross about the physicality of the Cardiff side, and I watched the quite dramatic game actually against Wolves where there were those 2 late penalties which unfortunately blew. But just to paint the picture of what Cardiff fans expect coming into this season in the Premier League, obviously, you know, it's been a while.
Yeah, I think it's really odd because I think there's kind of last season no one expected us to go up. So let's, you know, if we look at that, we finished second, and you know, even when we were second and clear of Fulham, there were a lot of pundits who were thinking that Fulham were going to come and nick our place and take it from us. But we held stead and we kind of came up. But I think this season, the expectation is, I think, it's just to be in the Premier League and just give it a go. You know, we spent 40 million, I think, in the summer. Well, not even that actually, about 30 million on 4 players, and we got Harry Arter and Victor Camarasa in on loan. And I think when the expectation was raised somewhat, but when you look at Fulham and Wolves, and a lot of our fans were unhappy perhaps that we didn't spend as much money as them. But I think we were never going to do that because we want to build upon the Premier League season as a founding base. You know, like I think we look at Burnley and what Burnley did. Burnley came up, didn't spend too much money, went down, but kept the core of their squad together and came back up and have kind of cemented themselves in the Premier League. And I think, you know, most fans would probably accept that we're probably going to get relegated this year. I think when clubs like Fulham and Wolves are spending 100 million, but not just spending that money, they're buying people like Seri, who has been linked with Barcelona, and Wolves have signed João Moutinho, who is, you know, he's been linked with every big club in Europe over the last sort of 5 seasons. That changes things dramatically. But I think, you know, we're ahead of Fulham. I think we're giving teams like Burnley a go. There's teams like Southampton who aren't any better than us. You know, there's sort of 5 or 6 teams down there who can get relegated. And I think that's given us more cause for cheer now. I think most of us would accept that we're going to get relegated this season. But I actually think we might, you know, get 4 or 5 wins against teams around us. We might put them into trouble and kind of maybe even sneak that sort of 17th place.
Certainly, that'd be a cause for optimism. Just from a team news and tactical standpoint, obviously a team managed by Neil Warnock's not going to be heralded as playing beautiful football. I've got down here a 4-4-1-1 approach. Could you just give us a tactical idea what to expect from Cardiff this weekend?
Yeah, of course. So I think we kind of do play a 4-4-1-1, but it kind of changes sometimes to be like a 4-3-3, perhaps even sometimes a 4-4-2. Like I think when we attack and when we defend, we kind of line up in a different way. I think when we defend, we kind of line up in a 4-4-2 almost. There's 2 banks of 4 with 2 strikers up front who are quick to get on the ball. But then I think when we attack, we definitely get wide, and we play it wide with Josh Murphy, and it's either Kadeem Harris or who else has been playing on the wing? Victor Camarasa kind of plays on the wing as well. I think with this weekend and the team we're going to have out, I think Gunnarsson is going to play, and Aaron Gunnarsson kind of screens the defence. So he's kind of a very simple defensive midfielder. And then I think Harry Arter is going to be back as well, which is good news because he's just so energetic and he'll tackle anything that moves. And I think that's really important for then freeing up people like Camarasa, who's this Spanish lad we got from Betis on loan, who is probably the best footballer in our team. He picks a pass, he never loses the ball, and he plays really well. And I think then that frees up when we've got up top Murphy, Patterson, and it'll probably be Kadeem Harris again, or if not Kadeem Harris, Bobby Reid. And I think, you know, Josh Murphy is an old-fashioned winger. He gets you down the line, either puts a cross in or takes a shot. And then we've got Callum Patterson, who's turned himself into a goal machine this season. So it's quite a fluid formation, which is interesting that you say that we're with the Warnock side, we don't pass it around too much and that kind of thing. We don't, but I think against Brighton in the last game, when they were down to 10 men, we actually did that a bit more. We kind of held possession. I think we had 60% possession in the end. We almost did 600 passes, which is basically double what we normally do. So I think the worm is turning somewhat.
Well, you mentioned someone that I want to move on to now, and he epitomises tactical flexibility. I saw a tweet that kind of made me do a double take, and I couldn't quite believe it. That obviously I saw on Match of the Day he got that goal against Brighton, and he busted out a few funky moves in celebration, and then for the international break he kept a clean sheet at right back for Scotland. I was doing some research. He said he'd been at Cardiff since June of 2017. How long's he been, such a utility man, Callum Patterson?
It's really hard to say. He came in as a right back, and we were expecting this kind of marauding right back who gets up and down the pitch, but is a defender primarily. But for whatever reason, Warnock, when he played him, he just put him in midfield as a defensive midfielder, and then Patterson, for whatever reason, unbeknownst to anyone else, was just getting into the box and getting goals. I think he scored in his debut, and I think last season he ended the season on sort of 9 or 10 goals, and not particularly some of them weren't particularly good goals, but he hit a couple of really nice volleys. He was getting on the end of crosses. I think he's got a real attacking instinct. And I think that's where his goals are coming from this season. I think he played his first game up front against Burnley, and I think he won 24 headed aerial duels, which is the most any player has ever won in a game or since about 2002. Mm-hmm. So he was, I think, challenging for about 30, 35 headers in that game. So he's really good in the air. He wins the ball. But then he's got a knack of just being on the end of a cross. And I think it's astonishing, really, that he is going to Scotland and playing at right back, and he'll come back to Cardiff this weekend and play up front. And I think it just, he's a young lad. I think he's, 23, 24. I think he's just really willing to do his bit for the team. And I think that's why he's ended up front. But I think if he was up front and not playing well, then fine. But he's doing a really good job. He's keeping our strikers out the team, which says a lot about him, really, that he's got something about him.
Yeah, obviously, as far as danger man are concerned, he'd probably be the first man on my list. And you mentioned there he's keeping players out the team. Junior Hoylett's one that I just wanted to ask you about, because I remember a few years back, obviously, he played for Blackburn, played for QPR, and on two different occasions, one for Blackburn, one for QPR, I think he scored a really good goal against Everton for QPR, and I think he won 2 penalties. Or 1 penalty for Blackburn against Everton. What's gone on with Julian Hoylett? Because I saw he scored quite a few goals for you last season and hasn't been getting in the starting 11.
I don't really know. It's hard to say. So we signed him when Warnock came in about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. He was one of Warnock's first signings, came in, had a bit of a slow start to the season. But then last year he was, I think he got 13 or 14 assists, 10 or 11 goals, was probably our key man in terms of our creativity. We looked like we were going to lose him this summer because he needed to sign a new contract, and there was a bit of wrangling about that. But he signed a new deal and stayed. But he just hasn't kicked on this season. I think when you've got players like Josh Murphy, who is so, I think there's a difference between Josh Murphy and Junior Hoylett. Is that Josh Murphy, when he takes a pass, he runs onto it and keeps the ball moving and just carries on with the ball, while Junior Hoylett slows the game down a little bit and takes a touch. And I think what's happened is just he's been surpassed by Josh Murphy's kind of a bit more attacking intent. I think Hoylett's still a good player, but I don't see him as first choice this season. I think Warnock has kind of lost his faith in him a little bit, really, which is sad because he was so good last year.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, I caught a bit of Josh Murphy for Norwich last year, and he certainly seemed like a danger man. Coming up against us this weekend. Just obviously, I can't deny it. Everton, we're in good form at the minute. We've really kind of. We found our groove under Marco Silva now. Just to fire a few stats at you. Obviously, last time Everton played Cardiff was was the 2-1 in the 2013-14 season. I remember it very well. I was there. Yeah. Seamus Coleman in the last minute. I remember that absolutely broke Cardiff fans' hearts. Yeah. It was really late on. You have to go back to December 1926, the last time Everton were beat at home by Cardiff. Just to get your thoughts on Everton this season and a few comments on the game, how you'd expect it to go.
Yeah, I mean, I always like Everton. I think you guys should be kind of batting above, where you are in the table. I always think that you guys are on the verge of kind of becoming a better team than you are. And I think Marco Silva is the man who's going to do that for you. I think he's got some really good signings in. I really like Bernardo. I really like Richarlison. I think Richarlison is, at the moment, probably one of the best players in the league, just for pure kind of ability, and he's backing up that price tag that he had. So I think I'm not coming into the game being confident. I'll be at Goodison Park on Saturday. I'm looking forward to coming to the ground because I've never been to Goodison before, but I just don't. I think we're a relatively solid team, but I think you've got the kind of tools that will unpick us, and I think you've got Sigurdsson on kind of set pieces, free kicks that we need to be wary of. I think you've got good attacking intent, and I just don't see how we're going to come away with anything other than a loss on Saturday, really.
So, if it was to push you for a prediction, would you be picking an Everton win?
Yeah, I'd go Everton win, and that's not. People might see that as pessimistic or whatever else, but I just think it's realistic. I think you guys are a better side than us. You've got a really good manager. I like Marco Silva a lot, and I think, like you say, he's got you kind of purring now, and I think you're only going to get better while we're still kind of finding our feet somewhat. And I just think it's. Maybe later in the season when you come to the CCS, when things are kind of, towards a more business end of the season, I wouldn't mind us thinking that we could get a win. But I just think at the moment we're not going to get a win on Saturday.
Fair enough, Ben. It was great to talk to you, mate. I wish safe travels for the game on the weekend. Just to let the audience know, where can we find your work and that, mate?
So we got a website called viewfromtheninian.com. And confusingly, there's two Twitter pages. So mine's View from the Nin, and then we've got VFTN Ninian, basically. You can find all our stuff there. We've got regular content, kind of videos, podcasts, whatever else you can find.
Ben, great to talk to you, mate. Thanks for coming on the show.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
So, there we are. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview and it give you a little bit more insight into Cardiff City Football Club and just what to expect from their team this weekend. As Ben very selflessly alluded to there, it should be a comfortable home win for the Blues. But being an Evertonian, you never quite know, do you? So if you like the Toffee Blues, like what we do, make sure to like, share, subscribe across all social media platforms just to stay updated for more. Come on, you Blues.